Good night, ladies and gentlemen. I want to thank everyone for coming. My name is Carl Scanbury, one of your hosts for tonight, and joining me is my other host, Ms. Sonia Scanbury. What do you, Sonia?
Okay, thank you, Carl. Welcome everyone to this live Zoom talk. It's the first live Zoom talk that we'll be having, discussing a range of different topics and, giving you some information with regards to sort of like bite-sized nuggets, just like live one-on-one interpersonal interaction.
Yeah.
So tonight is the first of many to come, where Carl would just share with you some information that would be helpful as he continues his FinTech research project and you guys participate in this journey that he's on. So tonight we'll follow a similar format as our last session where we would have done the interview style. Tonight Carl has a whole set of information to share with you on where all your data is going, what's being done with it whenever you fill out your KYCs, whenever you get those emails come into your inbox, where is all of my data going?
Yes.
So tonight, as I said, Carl has a range of topics, subtopics that he wants to touch on. So we'll be following our handy notes and our agenda for tonight to keep on track with tonight's session. So just share a bit, Carl, on the topic, why you chose the topic, what led you, what inspired you to have this as the first area of business that we get into for this live Zoom talk, and then you will get into the different aspects that you want to went through this morning.
Okay, so
this evening, tonight, tomorrow evening, whenever you watch this.
Yeah. So one of the hurdles that I had to overcome is as I go and research all these websites, Sonia, what information do I use? Do I use my actual information, or do I submit temporary emails, use one specific cell number? So I had to devise a way, what do I separate from my actual intellectual data versus what I want these websites to know about myself? So when I came to certain websites, I realized I hit a roadblock. Certain websites required you to actually have live video. Certain websites wanted to have the back of my digital ID. And most persons may know the bar digital ID has that QR code. So anyone scans that, they get a live connection to a website that has all your information, not only your national identification information, but also your driver license and so on. I believe there could be a better way. And tonight, we're going to identify issues with these three topics, but I'll even go further, not just talking about it, but I will provide solutions that are actually covered in our FinTech project.
So you mentioned something there that was really key. You said that basically when you come up on these websites and you have to enter your information, you have a decision to make. Am I going to give them my actual information, or am I going to basically just, embellish in some areas? So I guess that one of the things that you could begin to touch on, I know it's not quite a question on the notes, any notes that we have to share tonight, but how would you guide or advise someone when they are faced with that decision about sharing their actual information versus creating an embellished, I don't want to say fake, an embellished account?
Yeah, so what I call them virtual account or notes. Let's take your email, for example. Most persons have an email address as first name, last name at gmail.com. What I did was I took my middle name and added a letter to the end of it. So it's still my middle name, but not most persons know my middle name. So one of the things you can do is when you create a email address for FinTech research purposes, do not name the email your name. Name the email the title of your FinTech research. So that way, whenever you use that email, you can actually use that email address to group based on topic on what you're researching. So what I'm researching is capital. So a lot of the bridges. So all the emails I create have a specific acronym, full stop bridge. So I know this is all the fintech research related to the bridge. So anything that comes to that email, I know is tied to that specific project, as well as that email is listed on websites as that. They can just look at your email address and know what your name is. You will have to voluntarily give that information. That is another caveat, little nugget about the registry. So that's one of the ways to do it. So did you mention not fake information, but you only submit information when it's required. Any information that's voluntary, you keep to yourself. Only submit information when you have to. Yeah.
Okay, that's very key because I know sometimes it will go under forms or registration, like little forms, and they say, well, this is optional versus this is required.
Yes.
So you're basically saying focus on required fields and just leave out the
Once you
optional
say,
stuff.
usually we hit submit, and if you omit a field that is required, the website tells you. But if you see any field that has optional, you give the website as little information as possible for yourself. You don't fabricate anything. I'm not advocating fabrication, but what I'm advocating is giving a bare bones information. Only give the website what it requires. Don't give it any more. Don't embellish.
Okay, so what about, okay, so let's spin it on this side now. What about when a person goes on a website and they see the amount of information, regardless of if it is a lot or just a few required fields, but they just generally feel uncomfortable and just decide, okay, I'm not even gonna bother signing on this website. Because that's happened to me. I've gone on websites where I see like all the information that's required of me and I just close the browser because it's like, okay, is this really necessary?
Exactly.
So what do you say regarding that? No, like what's the best response to give? Is it that we have to really consider if it is necessary to sign up, or do we just face the discomfort and just sign up?
Well, you're actually tapping into a major element of the FinTech project. The FinTech project is ideally based on research at its core. But what it's going to do is create, yeah, I think the one that's actually talking to me is 10. Let's be just gonna fix think of the audio right here for everyone. Yep. Okay. Okay, so one of the elements that we want to actually touch on the FinTech project is that, so you touched on something really, really powerful. Now, one of the core aspects of it is that you connect the two countries together, and persons volunteer themselves to act as gateway, I don't know, gateway personnel for that veteran. So what that does, it minimizes the amount of person joining one specific website, and then that individual gives access to that website. Let me give a clear example. Let's say email, and you had a group of 6 persons doing FinTech research. Instead of all 6 members of that FinTech research project actually going to create emails and have an individual, you have one master email, And then that is used to sign the website, and each person has access to that. So they can independently submit information, but one team leader on that person's email is on it. So the FinTech project takes that concept and really runs with it. We'll touch more on that later.
Okay, so right before we jump into the actual notes, because interesting, the first aspect of the notes deals with email.
Yeah.
So my last question, before we get into this, is why all the emails? Do I have to create multiple emails?
See, one of the things I've done, I've advocated having, like, example, the network that you only manage, your replicate network. I advocate someone creating an email address for that, and then use that for every website you choose. So, and the reason for that is twofold. When you receive the email on that, you know that it is project replicate related, so you don't have to go and disseminate from other personal emails. That's one aspect. And number two, I think the biggest aspect of it is controlled information. So you know that any person gets a hold of that email, you know that it's only non-pertinent, important. All your confidential information is in your current email that you use for everyday purposes. There isn't anything in that email that ties you financially or otherwise to their two separate streams of information. That's one of the ways to do it. So we're going to speak about spam in a second, and that's one of the reasons why that anything in event that email is compromised for whatever reason is totally separate from your personal email. Yes, so it is easy to create these platforms and research using your personal email, but as time goes on and you start to amass all that information, it makes more sense to have a separate email from the beginning, and then you create a separate stream of information. So these websites, they're using your email, but it's not your personal one. Yeah.
So, well, on the topic of email, the first aspect you have here is spam or junk mail. And you have a few questions here at the top. Where does junk mail or spam come from, and where did they get my email? And I guess that's like the universal question when you see 1, 2, 10 in your in the number of spam emails you have, and when you go, it's like, how did they get my email? Especially if you had the email, like you would have received emails before, you unsubscribe and you're still getting them.
Exactly.
You know, so let's discuss this whole aspect of the spam. And then you also have here, the big question is, what if you did not have an email in the first place? Can you still get spam?
Yes. So one of the things I want to speak about is digging deeper into this is, what if we had websites where email addresses were not required? So let's say, for example, someone created a protocol called NEAR, no email address required. So someone will say, well, Sonia, in the event that you don't have an email address, they may even ask for your cell phone and say SMS. So one of the reasons why you get your spam email, remember I mentioned before, don't really use your first name and last name. There are some companies that have algorithms that change the first name and last name and they send emails out. You have just look in the two part, and you will see combination of your name. Sonia Scanberry, Sonia Scanberry, Sonia Scanberry 246. They literally have bots that create emails and sends it. The minute they see the email, they not bounce back. Oh, that's a real email. And then your email is added to a mass mailing list. And then that's one aspect where spam comes from. As well, and this is the hugest part, your information is sold. So there, I wouldn't talk tonight. There's some websites here in Barbados that you can go, pay funds, and download data. Yes, that happens today. So what I'm saying, you have to be very careful for those websites that prevent you from logging on, only if you sign off on them sharing your information. That's one of the aspects of it. So we spoke about a cell phone. I'm going to read a couple of notes here. If you have a phone, like SMS, you need a phone carrier. Now you need to have the ability to send SMS or data plan. So even if you don't use email address on it and you use your phone is already connected to a large ecosystem of information. Now, basically what I'm saying here is, where we'll go with this, there is a huge data infrastructure needed. That infrastructure is not cheap, or neither is it free. It comes at a cost, and we pay that cost by voluntarily giving our information away. That is our intellectual property. Yes, our data, your first name, last name, age, all that information is yours. Now, what we're speaking about here is custody. Is the data really yours? When you sign on to this website and you tick that box, if you don't click it, you realize that the accept continue button is grayed out. It doesn't allow you to go any further. You have to give this platform your permission to sell your data. Legally, they can't sell it without your permission. That is why there's certain websites or even apps that make sure you click that button. Now, let's say you have a phone and it's not topped up. What do? Do you still get access to the website? The same thing can be said about emails, meaning that the infrastructure, the email, sits on top of those platforms like Google and Hotmail and whatnot. They themselves protect your information, but they themselves give you access to free email, but they know internally how they make money from it. Same as Facebook. We don't pay for Facebook accounts, but the company that's buying Facebook, they perfected how to use our data and monetize it. So what I'm trying to say here is that is the issue with spam email and whatnot. Our data floating on all the internet. And what I've come up with is a solution to that. Yeah. So the solution to that is something called NuFax. Now you may ask me, why is NuFax? Okay, so let's say, for example, in the event we remove the requirement for email. That's the first thing that we saw. Now, first, email is electronic mail. That's the first thing you have to remember. So it has a dependency on both technology, but a pre-existing infrastructure. Email by itself doesn't only need the internet to work on it. It needs a whole network. It also has fields. The person who you're sending it to, the person who it's coming from, a subject and a body. Something you can send an email with a subject, but ideally it has to know where it's coming from and where it's going. So the idea that we are processing here is to create something where there's no sender field and there's no person is going to. The actual email itself is embedded, it knows where it's coming from, as well as it knows where it's going to. So in the event there's no sender, you have to remember this, always remember this. You cannot steal what does not exist. So in the event that you do not send the information where it came from, no sender information, so that information is not stored, so it can't be stolen. This NuFax doesn't store where it's going to, so that can't be stolen. So the information is sent in an instant. There's some technology, like example, like the Snapchat, those apps that send information and then disappear from the server after the fact. Now, essentially, the sender is known but not visible. The recipient is known, but it is visible. How is it visible? So the question is, if I'm sending an email and it doesn't store who's sending it, but it stores what it's sending to, that means there's something behind the scenes controlling that. It is visible because you're seeing it with your own eyes. Secondly, emails require you to access a server for new or old emails. So for example, if you are, let's say, driving to work and you don't have internet on your phone, you have to get into work, turn on your computer and get access to the internet and then see a flurry of the emails. Okay.
But the email had already arrived to you,
Exactly.
you just couldn't access it because you couldn't access it.
Exactly, because the internet gives you access, you need to bring it onto the server. So all these things actually add to the issue of spam mail. Imagine you come back from vacation and your inbox is littered with emails. And there's some apps like Microsoft Teams and others that are attempting to solve the email issue. Okay, so that going through that process, emails do not show the process. Which
Get
it. They don't show you the process of what you did when email. They just show you the end result. You receive it and you respond to it. It's very static. Okay, so in this process, you have going forward shifting away from email. Now, we have instant messaging apps like WhatsApp and so forth. So WhatsApp doesn't show you as you're typing, I believe Telegram does the speed up. It's sit on the correction. But there's some apps out there that actually show you as you type what you're saying. So sometimes
WhatsApp shows you when the
typing,
person
it's
is typing,
but it don't show you what the person is saying.
right? It don't show you what the person is typing at the time.
Yeah, but there's some apps out there that actually show you that. Yeah. So we're just taking that and literally running with it. So we have to develop a connection that doesn't require a physical device to work. Okay, but you still have access to the internet. So this is the process that my fintech project seeks to solve, the whole email issue. Using direction and physical proximity, NewFax allows direct connection, meaning that you do not need an email to send to a person. Okay, good. The NewFax is not sent to an electronic address, so it doesn't send to sonia@gmail.com. It doesn't send to a specific email address. It sends it to you directly based on where you're standing and the direction going. Remember, the email is sent to. So all NewFax is doing is taking that information and replicating it on a network based on your physical location in Barbados. We'll talk about that more later on. So what it does, it creates that electronic address, but this is what it does now. It creates a universally accepted digital location. So that means this digital location is unique to wherever you go in Barbados. Okay. It is mapped out where you are in Barbados based on your trajectory, speed, you may be in a car, then elevation, how high you are in Barbados. We discussed in certain parts of St. Lucie may appear high, but when we come to St. Philip and other areas, you realize that you're much higher off of the sea level.
And then at some points you do get like the zones.
Exactly.
Yeah.
A lot of because if you compare Barbados with Grenada, Grenada has a very vast Wi-Fi range because you can place one tower at one location and you can cover a vast area. So the cost of internet in Grenada is much cheaper because the infrastructure cost is cheaper there. Here in Barbados now, we have all these troughs and valleys. So hence the many towers have to be created in Barbados. And like I said before, this infrastructure is not cheap, nor is it free. So the companies pass that on to us, the consumers. So what I'm suggesting, since that Barbados is greatly that the terrain, let's use that to its advantage. Let's use the fact that we go up and down. It's generally flat, so but it still changes up so often. And then based on direction, and last but not purpose, you're gonna most persons say emails because most websites send you an email just to confirm it exists. You will sign up, and the first thing that tells you, we just send you an email to confirm. Go there, you either click a link, copy a code, but they're just doing that and make sure what? And listen to this, Sonia. You think you're confirming a code, but they're taking your IP address, taking your time zone. They're even just confirm your email. They know you're human, but they also capture information from your server, all that information they capture. And you haven't even told you have not even told them your first name is that. And they already have your information. So that's the process that we want to circumvent the NewFax, where we strip all that away and only base it on where you're standing, going, and the purpose and the speed, those 4 elements. So what that does, it creates a 4-dimensional key code that's encrypted in real time. And only the sender and the recipient can access based on time. So imagine you walk in front of, let's say, what we all call it case shepherd, but call it, let's say you walk in front of Duty Free Caribbean. Today, you went there and you sent a message. You sent to me, and you're in a meeting, let's say in St. George, I'm meeting with another client, and I drove through Broad Street. I am in the car, but you set the parameters that once Carl comes in the physical proximity of that message, boom, it pops up on my phone. So that way, that information is sent directly, based on time, location, and speed. And you just set the parameters, and once those parameters met, I receive it. No email address required. And that only exists here in Barbados. So the time at which these messages are sent, it only takes that time for me to reply to it. Once I receive it, I reply to it, so that I don't have to worry about it and so forth. So one may ask about storage. Where is this all the information is stored? Remember, emails store digital information. NewFax does not store information because it's only transmitted between two individuals, therefore allowing both parties anonymity and confidence. So that is where our fintech project looks to solve that issue. Now, most persons, like I said, we're not trying to eradicate mail. We just want to use our fintech project to give persons an alternative to it.
So basically what you just shared is one of the concepts with regards to developing solutions, because throughout this document, I actually see solution a lot. And I realize that it is like your ideas out on paper. Well, we have this live Zoom talk tonight with regards to where's all my data, and over time, you would have, I believe this document, now that I am really going through it in detail as you discuss, you know, where's all our data, I see it as that you being inspired based on your experience of traveling the internet and realizing, okay, this is a challenge. It may not be necessarily an issue or like a major problem.
Not yet.
But it's a challenge for persons. So let's see if we could provide a solution that makes traveling or journeying across the internet a bit more, like a bit safer, a bit more streamlined. It doesn't have to be that complicated. While you were speaking, two things actually came to mind when you were talking about the infrastructure for the internet. And I remember when I was living in the north, and we had like we had connection issues. Like we would go outside, or we would like find the nearest window, and we're like through the window like this with the phone, and it's like the higher that your hand can go, the more the bars will go up. And it is so true. Like, you know, Barbados is flat, but when you really look at it, we do experience that that shift in connection based on if you're down in like a valley area. Or right beneath a hill.
It creates a shadow. Like
Exactly.
We call them dead zones.
Exactly. And I know, like, when you explain, I just was like, okay, that makes sense. Like, you know, I mean, like, I don't know where we learned it from. I just know that whenever our bars was like down to 1 or none, we will go outside, especially like right after hurricane pass or whatever, and you had like downtime with the electricity or something like that. You know, we would seek refuge by sticking the phone in the air.
Yeah, and it works.
It does. And then another thing that I pondered on, which is really good as we discuss where is our data. I personally don't like being considered as just one source of data or information, another source of data information on the internet. So like you mentioned something there just now, and it took me back to, when you said with regards to me just giving my name as Sonia, I don't have to give anything else. But I noticed that there's some websites that they don't even ask me for my last name. They ask me for my first name. And then immediately when I press enter, an email comes to my inbox. And it said, hello, Sonia, but the sender is not really talking to me. I just happen to be another source or another recipient in their list. And I personally don't like that. I don't like not being engaged in a personal correspondence.
You just take
between sender and recipient.
Fill a form and get tend to be personal.
Yeah.
But it's very highly personal.
Yeah, I honestly don't like that because it makes you feel like a pawn in the whole game. So how do you deal with that?
No, a lot of persons, what really said this is based on the development of the members are going through a series of receiving large amounts, and they have to learn how to move it around. No, you want to move it around and with the minimal amount of your personal as possible, anonymous if you can. And that's why the way cryptocurrency is the best method to use. Only when you bring it to yourself, then you convert it to fiat currency. That way you're actually working within it. So to answer your question directly, how do we go about this? The best way to go about it, Sonia, is to come up with a plan. Make sure that you do the research, the website, go on YouTube, look at those videos how to create an account and get verified. So you're not submitting information yet. You're seeing someone else. You remember before have a gateway person, YouTube videos are very great sources for that. And then you use our network where we create a fintech bridge and persons themselves within network become gateway person. So that's one way to minimize having multiple copies of the information flow from the internet.
So as you said that, I came back here to page 1, where you have KYC, know your customer or know your characteristics.
Yeah.
And there's another page here where you actually went back to discussing a strategic solution where no KYC is required.
Yes.
So just so when you was sharing that, this came to mind. I will take you on a journey through my mind, and then you would advise me accordingly and advise those who are also on the call with us tonight. So I recently filled out a KYC form. It was actually the first time I would have done something like that actually in person. And when it got to source of funds, I was like, okay, I gave my name, I gave my email address and stuff like that. But when it came to source of funds, I was like,
and that's a great point, you know.
I am not like illegally sourcing this funds, but I really don't want to write down my information. But I did because I needed
That's a great point.
I needed to submit the document for what I was submitting it for.
Yes.
It was important. Can I say that right now, based on the arrangement, that it is necessary? I can't necessarily say that my KYC information matters, to be honest. But I saw the importance of filling out the information. However, here is where I went in my mind just now as we were talking. So you mentioned about providing your information and different things like that. So the first thing that came to my mind is how on certain websites they allow you to put in usernames.
Yes.
So usernames replace your actual name in some instances, or usernames are created for you using your actual name, so that you don't venture too far off and call yourself Johnny Bravo when your name is Carlos Canterbury.
Yes, please.
So just now I was like, okay, can we actually maximize usernames?
Yes.
But I believe that you can.
Yes, you can.
Here is where I feel like the challenge with the race. When we come through, so like for the FinTech project, where we come through the channels and the bridges, and we are finally at the stage where we are at the last stage of conversion, which is from the last stage of digital conversion to fiat, can then our financial institution look back and realize, okay, source of funds is Johnny Bravo 101. Now, how do we deal with that?
Yeah, there are websites such as Kraken. Kraken actually tries their best to allow you to create some anonymity. A person may realize this, a lot of your usernames are your email addresses on the internet. Sometimes your username is your telephone number.
Yeah.
What that makes it easier for the platform of choice to contact you. You don't even have to go into a database to know which area code you're in. Most persons in Barbados have a cell phone number that has 1, 2, 4, 6 above it. Only if you're a returning expat or someone who travels a lot and you have a national phone number, that's highly unlikely. But 9 times out of 10, if you live in Barbados, your cell phone number is going to begin with 1, 2, 4, 6. Now it's coincidental that America's area code begins with 1 and they have the area code for the necessary states. So there's some websites that require you to have a US telephone number, but the Barbados number works no way because it begins with 1, 2, 4, 6 doesn't fall into one of the area codes. But what happens is that they have these virtual phone numbers that can create area codes that do not fall in line with the states. Toll-free numbers work like that. So someone could create a area code that doesn't exist in a format, and the website, if it's not coded to omit it, accepts it. But to answer your question directly, is this. When even a great points on it. When you actually come to the point and they know that you're converting cryptocurrency from what's digital assets into fiat currency, and they go back and see your Johnny Bravo that you used, that is a situation where you're providing data There's some platform, I think Kraken does it as well as I think Nexo does it, Binance for sure does it. They give you information in relation to activity, and they tie it based on your email address. Now, remember I said before, having that symbiosis of information. Now, what I suggest to person is that if you're using for that purpose, try your best to ask the company which is asking for the information specifically what information they need. And that way you can control what you submit. So your data, remember, it's your data. So if you're submitting the information based on a platform, you receive the information, then you contact the information, the institution who's asking for it, asking specifically what they want. And that way you can export specifically what they need. Remember, minimize the information you give voluntarily. Only give what you need to give. Yeah.
So is it necessary when you are coming through the bridge? Is it necessary to provide that stage by stage record of the channels by which
And it works for me.
the conversion pass through?
Yeah, it works. Look, that's my reason why I'm promoting gateway personality. We'll come up with a better name than that. What that is a person who's well versed in that platform, as well as they have a pre-existing relationship with the institution. So the institution knows that they're going to be processing a large amount of funds. So when a large amount of funds hit their account, it doesn't seem strange. This is similar to what we experience in options. If you're not in the habit of receiving large amounts and then poof, a large amount hits there, that's going to throw off bells. But like you said, if you can show the institution step 1, step 2, step 3, I can show you the process it took to get here, and I can also show you YouTube videos of how I did it, and you're providing mountains of information that they're asking for. You don't remember, you don't voluntarily give information, and that way no one can steal what doesn't exist. You can only you can expose yourself. So that way you make sure you control the information going out. And the only ways that we want to do that in fintech project is have specific persons manning those bridges. So that there's more of funds coming through them, but it's coming through an individual who has a track record of receiving those large amounts. And that way, the institution, once it gets into fiat and is circling around the Barbados economy, there's not any issue. The risk is significantly lower because the funds are already here in our economy. Yeah.
So a question came to mind just now. Do all these websites, do every single one of these websites use our data?
Yes.
For positive purposes.
But yeah, because I think it is discovered one of the benefits of us, because Barbados is actually on a block list. Now, I didn't break down each website that has this, but you will go to sort of website and realize one, Barbados is not listed. Even if it is, the company that contacts you back and say that they are not authorized at this point to onboard you based on your geographical location. Some of them just come around and say that your country is on a block list for whatever reason. So my responsibility is not to determine why Barbados is not there, but to give the members a legal, legitimate bridge to get that done, so they can actually still maintain a high level of development. So generating funds, productions, but moving it here legally, systematically, and consistently with Barbados as the purpose of fintech bridge. Yeah.
Cool. So I do now understand the necessity of bridges and the importance of having more than one, because it gives you the flexibility. Yes. So it's good to have the source.
Yes.
It's good to have the destination, but then know you're working on the channels by which.
That way, low fees, high transparency, but only be transparent what you need to be transparent about. Yeah.
Cool. So we looked at, I believe that we covered the KYC. There's a section here where I mentioned just now where you have here no KYC required. So can you share based on what you have here?
Okay, so stepping beyond spam, the fintech project is seeking to have a solution that is no KYC required, and that's kind of how that works. All you remember your name. Now let's think this for a second. If you don't remember your name, Sonia, who will? However, what is the meaning of your name? Has anyone ever looked up the etymology of your name? Now, I have a question. What is the meaning of your middle name? I have this belief in my mind that someone's middle name gives you a deeper insight into their personality. But the question is, do you even have a middle name? My mom doesn't. So for example, you come to the website and you insert your middle name, and that website actually concatenates that to your first name. They create your name, on your account, your first, middle name, last name. But that's a good thing, because that creates your account more unique than others. Now, imagine this for a second, Sonny. There's no computers, there's even no government, but you live in Barbados. There's no parishes, there's no St. there's no Christchurch, there's no St. George, it's just Barbados. So ideally, like times in the Bible, you would be known as Sonia Scanberry from the north. I'll be known as Carl Scanberry from the south. But the south will be replaced with the street you're in. So that way, the only way that persons know who you are without asking your name is this: what other people say. So when you like example, if you're in a room with a room full of a lot of persons, everybody's talking at the same time, and I don't know what your name is, but there are 4 or 5 persons in that room calling you Sonia. You know what happens? You answer to it. Look about it. What happens when you're a child? How do we even know our names? My belief is, I've been researched this, but I believe that when you hear your parents say a specific name in your proximity, remember the proximity again, and they say it often enough, and they're directing it to you, you associate yourself with that name, and that's what you call yourself, because you can't name yourself. And furthermore, you can't even choose your parents. God did that. So the point I'm making is that since you realize that's how we exist as a culture, why not create a compass model system that works like that? Okay, so legacy is the best tool to determine your lineage, or basically what your first name is. Imagine that, because your last name is tied to who your parents are. And based on most often not, if your father and mother married, more often you take the last name of your father. Now, your first name is only relevant for individuality. Let us think for a second. In a room full of Sonias, but we know Sonia is a graphic artist, we know Sonia is the CEO of Trivium. That's who Sonia is. But that's not your first name, that's who you are. Okay? So what we want to do is look at cohesion and collectiveness. And that is birth from your last name. And that also derives from where in Barbados you come from. So where I'm saying is that this system doesn't need to know your first name. So what it does need to know, right, is what part of Barbados you came from, and more on the, as a big, huge, but we reveal how the fintech project works, and most often than not, your last name, because they would know based on the lineage of liquidity that name has comes from. And that will actually tie into the element we discussed. My solution to that is, how do we solve the no KYC required issue? It's something called Liquid Check. So what is Liquid Check? Liquid Check spelled, I'll spell it for you, LQUICHECK. Now, Liquid Check is a consultant agency which also offers a liquidity verification service. Now, there are 2 words there I want to focus on: liquidity and consultation. Now, if you look at the 2 words that follow them, those words are verification and agency. Now, so Liquid Check is a consultation agency, sorry. So the concept that I have for the fintech project is to establish a company that what it does, it confirms your liquidity. There's a company right now, and it existed about 10 or 15 years ago. It was called EquiCheck. What will happen, ladies and gentlemen, is that you would write a check as a business person, and you would submit it to a cashier. the cashier would then take that check, photocopy it. This is even before they had high-speed modems and DSL. You had a dull a noise, you hear two modems communicate. It would send an image of that check to a computer. That computer would then read that check. It will contact, because every check has a little barcode number at the bottom, and it checks to see what amount is written. It goes into your bank and confirms you have the amount of funds for that check to be received. Now, the reason why I'm not saying that was a flawed process, but we all know what checks are. Checks are a promissory note, meaning that I promise to pay you X. But what if you wrote a check last week and the person didn't cash it as yet, and you wrote another check, and both those two persons cash the check at the same time? You may have the funds to cover the first amount, but not both. So inherently, what this is doing is that when a person is receiving funds on a constant basis from the network, this entity confirms liquidity from a larger area, from a parish standpoint. So that means that the liquid check doesn't check your bank account. It doesn't check your cryptocurrency account. What it does, it looks at how much funds it is generating in a given point in time. And if you want to purchase that car, and that liquidity is available to purchase that car, you can buy it. You yourself don't have it. Because the bridges now create liquidity by parish. Imagine, let's say, 1,000 persons for each parish. The 11 parishes, those are the 11,000 persons, and each person had a liquidity of X. You may not have that liquidity in your possession, but because you're part of this collective, you have access to that liquidity. So this company here checks that. So let me go a little bit further. Now, this is a concept that Sonic came up with. As a result of today's business model, this is currently practicing markets, yes. Consumers, personally, you myself and I, interact with only 10% or less with the corporate staff or even the actual physical property. Imagine that you go to a bank, you only go to the tellers, but behind the bank is layers and layers of departments. There's also floors and floors of departments, a massive infrastructure. Even if the bank is owned by a foreign entity, even that is even larger. But all you do, you interact with ATM providers, or you go into a physical bank and you go and speak to the teller. So we as consumers only interact with 10% of companies. Another one of the things you told me about. The only two entities I came up with in my research that are the exception to the rule are gas stations and supermarkets. Because of the high foot traffic, you come, you get your product, pay for it, and leave. So since that business model is designed to make sure you come, get a service, and leave, is that most persons only see lines in supermarkets in high hurricane times or price reduction. And gas stations, when you see the gas prices drop, you see people flood to the gas station, or either if it is going to rise the next day, persons run, or even hurricanes as well, once again. So in my research, those are the two entities are exceptions to rules. Now, I want to put it in simple terms. Simply put, the funds are not stored in banks. So this is a clear move away from what happens right now, sorry. And those entitled to it, funds in the liquid check, depend on information provided by the government to prove the legitimacy of the nationality, name, and thereby giving proof of available funds. And not even up-to-date funds, like I mentioned before. So when you give a check, that check has on your name. The government knows about that. The check has the bank you're issuing with, someone else like that. So any check you write, the person can look at it and see, one, this person has that amount of funds in their bank. I can know where their bank is, and I know where their name is. And furthermore, he also has a signature on it. So that's one of the reasons why when persons tell you to sign a check, do not sign the same signature that you sign confidential documents, because you don't want to use those two. Usually scribble a check, but the person at the bank have an image that compared to others. So what I'm saying is that you want to move away from those kind of legacy-based systems, and liquid check would actually solve all of this. Now, let me just jump to the actual solution itself. Now, the solution is a liquid ID. I mentioned this some things back. This will be a decentralized method of identifying an individual's corporate level of liquidity by sector, meaning that Sonia is in a specific area. She's standing in Bridgetown. And because there's so much, there's tens of millions of US in the St. Michael sector of liquidity, Sonia can go into to Chauffeur and buy some food based on the mere fact she's just standing in St. Michael. So that's what your liquid ID will give you access to. Now, it all boils down to the entity determining whether you're human and whether you have a decent track record, meaning that you don't go and just splurge because you have access to all these funds. You actually use access with maturity and demeanor. Now, it goes here to give you the definition of what a promissory note is. It is a signed document containing a written response to pay a stated sum to a specific person or bearer at a specific date or on demand. That's what the check is. All the check is a promissory note. So we don't give out these liquid IDs promising that you're going to get X, Y, Z. That was one of the problems we had. All the initiatives where told persons deposit X, get Y. We're abolishing that. This is something that every person would know what amount of liquidity exists in St. Michael from cryptocurrency and anyone can check it. But your liquid ID gives you access to it. Okay, so you don't have to get a check and all the green methodology where you will print on this paper, eradicates all that. So I mean, let's practice the next more. A liquid ID is a validated declaration of funds, which is digitally signed on you, which shows the inflow of funds, provided evidentiary documents, meaning that it shows you where the funds came from for options, with the Binance to Gray.co here. It shows everyone clearly where these funds came from and how rapid they come in the markets. And then it adds as a sum of a specific, adds up in a sum based on your geographical location, which provides anyone within a specific radius. So once Sonia wants to access that, imagine this, people around you also get access to the network as well too. Put simply, it gives anyone within a specific radius access to a large amount of funds, which is available and verified. So when you go and purchase that element, the liquid ID gives you access to it. It proves where the funds came from and verifies that the funds are there, just like that. So that way there's no KYC. I don't need to know what your name is. Once you have that liquid ID and you're proven to be a person who manages funds well, and the information how those funds came into be is proven and verified. So that way we don't need to know your name and all that stuff. It just your liquid ID solves that problem one time.
Cool. So basically, when you explained there just now, actually was what I asked you before with regards to the Johnny Bravo comment.
Okay.
With regards to if the financial institution wants a record of source of funds, the journey from source coming through the bridges to the intended institution, so that you can finalize the conversion to fiat. So then the question is, would then your financial institution be able to get this information based on your liquid ID?
Well, the concept is this: the bridge pretty much overworks everything else. We're going to discuss that next when we split the fintech project. Whereas ultimately, what we want to do here at Trivium is give persons options. So you have cryptocurrency, but cryptocurrency is not the only thing that we can use to move funds. You have persons who can write books. That's Amazon Kindle. They have persons who want to open their own Amazon store. You may not live in America, but you can create a US company, register it, and the company receives the funds from Amazon, and then the company pays you in Barbados. The funds will get here. And also we will connect persons with the US bank account. So basically what this is that the platform, the process will play by the rules. We will make sure that we dot our I's, cross, or they give the financing institution all the information that they require, not want, require. Once you give them what
To
they require,
legitimize the process according to their policy.
exactly. Don't give them anything additional. Don't give them any extra information. Give them exactly what they asked.
So you mentioned, I'm gonna flip back to ask something a little later. But you did mention the fintech project, which name is going to be reviewed in short order. We're just working on some stuff behind the scenes as we look to prepare for a launch in the summer of Trivium. And so the fintech project will currently be named Fintech Project. So you have here, which made me chuckle a little bit, where you said we here in Barbados don't require any country to feel sorry for us.
Yes.
And I really do understand. I also go on to say we do not want any specific special treatment. We simply want to be recognized as a perfect island to act as a bridge between various territories.
Yes.
And I do understand that because one thing that I noticed about your fintech research is that you are not sitting in a pity party at the door of a blacklist. You know, you are like searching for ways that are legitimate, that are legal, and that provide that door to be open to Barbados to still participate.
Yes.
And I really, that's one of the most exciting parts of the fintech project is to see how you can basically like use the blacklist as a strategic advantage and not
very
be
well
hindered by
very well said.
And not be hindered by it. I think that one of the things in face of hindrance is to still be found working.
Yes.
Because it can be possible that you know, because someone was working so, you know, assiduously to ensure that this thing was made available, that one day your efforts will be recognized and it won't be a work in vain to see that, you know, all this work was done behind the blacklist door, you know, that would have opened to Barbadians. So yeah, that fintech project in specifically is one thing that I'm looking forward to as your fintech research continues to take shape and form. One of the things that, as I mentioned just now, something that I want to mention later, which I will actually get you to touch on, because we're talking about where is your data, and we know that in Barbados is a Data Protection Act. And I know that I've sat in some forums before where persons would have touched on the Data Protection Act. I've seen news articles where people ask questions with regards to, especially when the Ministry of Smart Technology started to, you know, make some things available. There was a lot of talk about the Data Protection Act and stuff like that. So how familiar are you with the act? Are you aligning the act to what you are doing?
That's an excellent question. Like you said, you and I actually we went to that convention where you were supposed, I think it was Africa, where we were trying to create that business connection with Barbados and Africa. And then there was another, I think it was a presentation I went to, the Central Bank of Barbados hosted it, Barbados being a cashless society. Now, the reason why I mentioned this is that there was also another presentation I went to at UE, and it dealt specifically about that, actually. So where is Data Protection Act, and there was one gentleman there who was the CEO of a company that what they do is that they legitimately dispose of sensitive information. So you have companies that have all these hardware and whatnot, they are paid to confidentially destroy the hardware so your information doesn't get circumvented. But that money is, I'm not saying I'm not thinking against that, but what happens in between that? What happens in between the hardware being destroyed? That means that it's proven that your information is on the hardware. So that is the issue that I have. Remember I said at the start by saying that nothing can be stolen if it doesn't exist. That in itself, we haven't chosen a theme for your project as yet. But that's one of the things I constantly are after. You cannot steal what doesn't exist. So why store the information in the first place? Have a data metric. We don't discuss the way how the fintech project stores information. That will be a separate Zoom call in itself. But we discussed today, where is all of my data? So it is given that your data is somewhere. Yeah. Where we spoke about spam. Where does your spam email come from? We talk about KYC. When you submit information, where does it go to?
And something that is very important to know is that legitimate websites that you give your email to, the initial emails go to your primary inbox because they're doing business with you.
Yes.
But then over time, they begin to spam you. And a lot of stuff go to other aspects of your inbox, like they spam, some might go to promotions or notifications.
Sometimes you say
And
instantly.
then it just gets annoying. So is it that, is it that, okay, so I'm literally visualizing one particular email that I get. It initially started off as person to person. I signed up for something, I got the email in response to what I signed up for.
Correct.
But then within a few weeks, a few months, maybe a year, more emails are coming, but they're promotions. Sometimes they end up in my spam. I don't see them until I actually go clear my spam.
Something that happens, something's important information.
Exactly. So what's happening there with regards to the information that's coming from this particular website or company? With regards to the email that was provided. Some of the,
that's why I advise persons to really read those data privacy clauses. Every website must have one.
Yeah.
So they have to tell you, don't make as small as it is, it has one, they have to tell you what they're doing with your information. You know, in the event that you are receiving something quote unquote for free, they interpret that as an exchange. Since that you receive the service for free, that means I can use your data. So all those things you have to read into. Now, what the fintech project seeks to do is use the app we have, Sunny Ripple, that it seamlessly onboards you onto websites we've already vetted. That we know these websites, we research the Data Protection Act, or policy, sorry, and then we find that falls in line what like this here. So this also relates to where we speak about digital IDs. We're going to speak about it in a second. How do we really control our data? But is it ours? The minute you voluntarily give it to a website, it's no longer yours. It isn't.
It's shared.
Yes, it is shared information. Shared custody, not back that I would say one again. So the fintech project at its core wants to create a bridge with other countries in Africa. And since that they have so much larger number than us, and we have a higher dense population when it comes to currency base, meaning that a person connected to us can move funds fast because our currency is higher than theirs. But they have platforms that create us here on Bushin, which give us the tech advantage. So the fintech bridges creates those two measures. I'm probably getting ahead of this part of it, but that's the part where I said it. Yeah.
So financial, you gotta give your information for some aspects.
Yes.
Technology, you gotta give your information for some aspects, and then the two come together is like, okay, so much information to be given.
Exactly.
But you can do it in a safe way. And I'm glad that you mentioned just now about the app being able to onboard persons based on like registration processes and stuff like that.
The app is what stores the information on all the websites. So whenever the website wants information, the information comes from your app, not from your browser. You know, all those websites that store your name, address, telephone number, address, even credit card, all information, your Chrome browser stores that and it attaches to your Gmail account. So there is a server somewhere that knows all your passwords. There's some persons who look at the website, even happens to me. These servers, this software knows more about us than we know about ourselves. And that's scary.
And that touches on something that came to mind just now, that As long as we are in a technological advancing world,
Mhm.
and we have a cell phone in our hand, we have a tablet, we have a PC, we have SIM cards, we got bank cards, we got this card and that card. Like, information is being given
Yes.
every day, every minute, every time we use the devices, and the key is to just have a knowledge.
But listen to what you just said just now. When you give someone your email address, you are indirectly promoting Gmail. When you say carl@gmail.com, I'm giving you my email address, but I am indirectly promoting Gmail as an email platform. The person heard Gmail, so they send it, and then Gmail becomes embedded in my, that's a email platform. I'll go where I want to. So you mentioned just now, we share information so ubiquitous, so secretly, because that those companies have designed the process that allows us to benefit from on the surface. But they are multiple benefits because they can use it time after day, and they're monitoring. Sometimes you have a cell phone in your hand and you're having a conversation with, and then all of a sudden you get pop-ups that related to specifically that. Person asks, how does that happen?
Or you get information based on where you're geographically located at the
Exactly,
time.
exactly.
So you might ask yourself, okay, like the other day I was in St. Philip, and I opened my Instagram and I got a sponsored ad, and it was for like an event. And I was like, okay, this looks interesting. Let me click on it. And then I realized that the establishment that was hosting the event was just across the road. And it's like, that's so crazy.
Sometimes Gmail sends you a synopsis of your movement for the month. If you have your phone turned on and the location services on like all the time, Gmail sends you a report of where you went.
And I think that sometimes they can hear you, because like I will be having conversations, and then when I go on my device, I get like sometimes it's like if I tell someone, I want to buy a case of water bottles, and then I go on Instagram and I see PriceSmart sharing a water bottle special, and it's like, but how did they hear me?
Sometimes we just go and search for one random word, and every website after that has ads specific to that specific one word, because they're sharing information, cookies in itself. And then trust me, you turn it off, turn off cookies, you will see websites pop up, cookie policy, and you can't get past that. Enable all, accept all, or restricted. But so we're getting into the whole core of what the project is about, really. Now, is entitled non-human nationality required. Imagine that. So with the advent of artificial intelligence, no, there comes a time when we need to distinguish what is human activity and this activity done specifically by a computer. And imagine this, imagine Carl is using an app to make sure the information is human based. So that's in itself, the Ripple app is designed to promote or disseminate information that make sure the person knows is coming from a human. No, I want to touch very lightly on an analogy here. No, here in Barbados, we have craters in the road. We call them potholes. Now, due to the fact, the whole concept of where potholes came from, they're large enough that, and they're deep enough to hold a pot. Now, I call them artificial speed bumps, right? Basically, literally, any sudden fall or rise in the economic causes a shuddering effect to the driver of the economy and its passengers. So that's an analogy. The driver of the economy hits a pothole. A big pothole is COVID. Yeah. Another pothole is a hurricane. Anything that causes the economy to do a sudden shift is called a pothole. So in today's economic climate, whoever is responsible for driving Barbados' economy suffers this effect, as well as a person who is driving the person. So imagine the person who is driving the economy of Barbados, and the passengers are the Barbadians, and anything happens to that car, we all feel it. Yeah. Even so, but depends on which side the ball is on. Okay.
I love this next statement that you have here.
Mhm.
You say here, however, is the economy being driven by a person, or is a person driving a national system designed to negotiate the economy? When potholes are encountered, the result is not so damaging.
Mhm.
That's like going beneath the surface
Yes.
of understanding what's actually happening.
Mhm.
We can go fix the potholes and we have a patchwork economy. We can attempt to dig up the entire road, replace it with brand new material while suffering a loss of income while that economy is not accessible. What do we do? What do we do?
So I want to say we have a unique opportunity here. We really do. Okay. Now we are an island, and we are surrounded by water. So I'm going to use water as the scenario of liquidity. Liquid. Back to the liquidity. Now, keep in mind that we are an island. This is not the same situation as Australia. Australia is surrounded by water, but Australia is a continent to the sheer size and its demographics and so forth. Now, using this water as a scenario and liquidity, that comes in a form of entrepreneurship. The FinTech project Antrivium has clearly laser focused on entrepreneurship because we believe that the entrepreneurship in Barbados is the key to kickstarting the economy. Okay. Now, this allows the driver of the national system, not the driver of the economy, the driver of the national system to relinquish their role to who? Entrepreneurs. And that way they push the focus on entrepreneurs. So this is what happens. This allows the driver of the national system to relinquish their role to a more robust and enthusiastic driver who is not tired and follows the same roads. Someone who's been driven by the economy, accustomed to going to external elements, external companies, external bodies. You know what, Sonia? These bodies and companies come to Barbados with a pre-existing interests, for another term. They know what agenda the Kingdom of Barbados to make money. So what Barbados does, it creates these little tax havens that attract companies. Then when those tax havens go, what these companies do? They leave, and what they do, they leave our economy in shambles. They high rise in unemployment, and then hence a ripple effect. What we want to do is create a ripple effect within the economy of Barbados that we benefit and how the entrepreneurs drive that. So this push to focus on entrepreneurship thereby is an enthusiastic driver, gives the surrounding person a leader. It gives the Barbadians clear persons who knows the sector they're in, they're masters at it. Sonny will just touch briefly on that. And then is a real person, it's not artificial intelligence. So we will have companies and person jobs being replaced by AI. Barbados is clearly focused on humans, well, not only humans, but entrepreneurs which believe in what they're doing. Now, this person can support the economy both financially and resources, mental resources, and so forth. This then allows each region to manage, repair, and promote better road usage. Road usage is how we move funds, and then the laws that prevent the rapid road degradation. The more time that you drive a road, the more degraded it gets. So we want to make sure that the road is of good quality and only certain specific vehicles pass by the same road. So large vehicles have their own trajectory, their own road, their own pathway, but other vehicles which are designed for speed and mobility have a different road. This is a metaphor for us. I'm not speaking about physical roads yet. I believe that once Barbados takes a really good look at repairing our roads in Barbados, you will realize that we usually drive in Barbados, most roads are of bad quality. So we have a specific road that we take, and then traffic causes us to go different roads. But take that not only from a literal sense, I do believe that our physical road system, once repaired holistically, our economy would increase because we can drive in areas that we're not normally seen, and businesses will get more foot traffic. But not only that, let's take it at a metaphor level, a metaphor. Whereas we fix the channels of funding, So the entrepreneurs don't receive funds on it. One of our goals is that entrepreneurs can turn around to be funders of the government. When another country in the Caribbean needs financial assistance, the government partners have to jump in. The entrepreneurs within our network collaborate, combine funds, and assist. So it is focused on. So I'm gonna put it in a very simple way. Simply put, it allows the economy to thrive because it focuses on self-repair, not the dependency on external influence, which comes loaded with pre-existing agenda and initiatives. And then all the initiatives have certain requirements that we have to jump over hoops and make sure we have a low tax element and make sure our persons who are retired at a certain age and all these elements of trying to cut costs, but we as a people sometimes do stuff. Yeah. So the solution is different that way.
So, this entire document has outlines various solutions that you're currently exploring with regards to different aspects of the fintech project as you do your research and see where your findings can be implemented to bring some kind of I guess long-term solutions,
Yes.
not just fixing, as you say, not just fixing the potholes for now, but you're kind of like looking at, okay, the entire road might need to be dug up, but how far long down the path do we go? You know, do we go from roundabout to roundabout, or do we just handle the entire highway? You know, and if we are handling the entire highway, how do we deal with each stage? You know, do we deal with each stage week by week, month by month? You know,
or do we switch from asphalt to concrete?
Exactly.
These are metaphors, but they tie into the portion of it.
Yeah. So that's in essence what I have gathered from you sharing tonight with regards to the aspect of data within the fintech project. And of course, persons listening tonight, the key topic that we were sharing tonight was, where is your data? Where is my data? And as I was discussing with Carl earlier, we go on these sites, we enter information to log in, to register, to sign up, to get information, whatever it is. And as soon as we press enter, our information is shared. And as Carl mentioned,
sometimes we even access, you know,
yeah. And as Carl mentioned here, he would have repeated it a couple of times in the document. You cannot steal what does not exist, but as long as you enter information online, even if you delete it, it's still there.
Just some random.
Yeah, and that's something that kind of alarmed me the very first time I heard it, but then I understood it.
It scares me.
Yeah.
You have no idea where your information is going.
Exactly. So for you to say you cannot steal what does not exist, it's for you to acknowledge that it's existing, so it can be stolen.
Exactly.
And so probably the only way to, you know, hinder this your information from being stolen is just not give it in the first place. But you know, we are giving information even when we don't, when we're not intentionally entering information. We're giving information by purchasing devices and activating them.
Very well said, son.
You know, we don't need to actually submit information. All we have to do is to activate a device in our hand, connect it to location, connect it to email or whatever, and suddenly we're sharing information.
These systems may not even need to know your name. They just want to know what sex, what age, what demographic fall in, what ethnicity. And that's a
you see that word demographic?
That's a whole
that is demographic to me is more valuable in data accumulation than your name.
And those two can merge because entrepreneurs, when they launch their business, key demographics is very important. Who is my target? Who's my audience?
Exactly, because when you're building a business, in my experience, you know, looking at your audience, as you just said, you'd specify the person down to, as you said just now, the sex, what they like, where they go, where they frequent, profile, are they Asian, are they Bajan, are they American, do they have long hair, do they have blonde hair? All depends on what kind of business you have. You don't need to know their name. You just need to know, as you say, and at first when you had this title here, I was like, know your characteristics. But now I understand. You know, you go beyond knowing the customer by the name and the address and different things.
Go a little bit further.
And you go a little bit further to actually, you know, where do they fit in the demographic? You know, as I said, the preferences, their image, the profile, you know, these are the stuff that make up the characteristic of the person. And as I said, I found that to be more valuable than knowing someone's name, because it happens every day. We go and we buy stuff, we go and we register for different things. And like, for example, you go into a shop and you buy an item and you leave, you pay your money, you leave. That shopkeeper doesn't know your name and you don't know their name. But they know that a female in their 30s walked in and purchased a pack of cornflakes.
And she's, well, we also know she's basically saying, so 90% she's a black person.
Yeah. So that is very, very, very key. And what I would want you to share before we get into question and answer, I know that one of the last aspects that we have here to touch on is digital ID cards. So you can go ahead and share on that. And then I have a challenge for you before we open question and answer.
Okay. So I'm just want to touch very briefly on the blur and then get into the aspect of how do we solve this issue. Now let's talk about the big gray elephant in the elevator. Now, we're not in a room, so it's a metaphor. You know, the metaphor is the elephant in the room. Let's talk about this, like this aspect and no one will talk about address. So since you're in the elevator is moving. So the economy of Barbados is going in a direction, but which direction is going in? The elevator can either go down into the abyss or into the clouds of imagination. So what I want to do is use that with the concept of the newly generated digital ID card that we have here in Barbados. Now, the concept behind it is it allows us to move into the digital age. But however, the digital ID card has a SIM card on it. Now, a lot of persons may not know this, that we all believe that the SIM technology is used to pin your debit card as well as transfer SMS text. The chips look very similar, they are. But I've come to realize that in Nigeria, they have something called BVN. There is a bank verification number. Sonia, it stores your biometric data, it stores your picture, and all the banks cohesively have access to this information. So competing banks share this number and instantly they know what your biometrical data is, they know what your fingerprint is, they know what you look like. So there's anything, and this is a government implemented aspect. But I researched it and it works. Even I don't have a BVN, but I actually have a Nigerian bank account. Now, what we want to do with the bridge is allow us to have a digital ID that is not tied to the state of Barbados. A corresponding digital ID to someone who lives here, Nigeria. So it goes on to say this. The mere fact we have no clue where we're going or what our data that we willingly share, by the way, is ultimately going and shared with is the most scary fact in my opinion. So like I mentioned before. Additionally, have you ever wondered how you know your name? We discussed that already. What is your name? Does anyone even ask you what is your name? Well, when we have platforms like Facebook, Instagram, no one needs to know your name. Once you give them your Instagram handle or your Facebook profile, they can go in there and see all your friends. They can see where you've been. I mean, these are huge security risks, okay? All these questions pop up. Now, let's bring it back home for a second. Our parents, our guardians, they give us our name. So we don't name ourselves at birth, our parents do, our guardians do. Now, this is the point I'm gonna say now. The country where you're born dictates our nationality by birth, not patronage. Patronage is that you believe you're Barbadian and you're gonna devote yourself to helping the economy. Not what Barbados is gonna give you, or not what the replicating network is gonna give you, or what you can see the benefit, what you're gonna give to it. What are you going to give to Barbados? What are you going to give the community? What are you going to give so everybody benefits from it? Okay. So are you Barbadian by birth
Right. So now all of these make up us as a Barbadian. Now, what exactly makes you Bajan? Besides verifying you were born here. So if you were born in Barbados, you were born here, but does that make you Bajan? What do you do to contribute to the economy or the social landscape of this island? I believe that is what you do to be Bajan. You make sure you know who you are and you stick with that. And you also look to help. And I think somewhere in the pledge, I believe the wrong way anthem, that we're craftsmen of our faith, meaning that we actually take a action approach to what we do. So when we have digital ID cards, they have our name, address, based on a daily basis, which is your revelation, but other stuff as well. But what I really want to get at is a Barbadian digital ID. So where we are in Barbados, we want the world to know that we're gonna actually establish ourselves as the hub to transfer information. So basically, what the project is to allow Barbados, and I don't have a perfect presentation, but if you look at any map and you look at Africa, there's a small part off the coast of Africa called Cape Verde Islands, and they're made up of a whole series of chains of it. No.
I know those islands because that's where all the hurricanes start.
So you come across the first island that you hit is Barbados. So Barbados ideally is the best location to connect between Africa and this side of the world and to other islands. But based on our geographical location, and then on top of that, based on where you're studying in Barbados, if you look at Africa, just turn it upside down. It visually matches then based on when we make this document interactive, this second image shows you a movement from the bottom of Africa, which is Cape Town, goes over St. Helena, and then it hits Fernando, capital word. Then this is on where these are on the coast of South America. Then it hits Fortaleza, and then Double Island, and then the first Caribbean island it hits is Barbados. So Barbados is the perfect country to use to connect Africa to the wider world based on entrepreneurship. So this fintech project has already built a bridge between Nigeria. Nigeria is a bed hub of fintech startups like Grey.co, Kusha, and many others. My concept is to use the bridge that already developed. And right now, saying I can move funds from Barbados to ADP Cash, to Binance, optionally. I don't have to do this. Optionally, get those funds, put it on a binary option platform, the pocket option, like you're saying. And then once I get those funds back to Binance, or even skip that process altogether, go from Binance, Grey.co, and then I have a bridge called Grey.co. Is a fintech company based in Nigeria. And then once we do this, I think one of the things I want to mention is this. If you look at the two images discussed just now, there are huge possibilities in exchange of intellectual properties alone. So in other words, we're not giving information away willingly, we're exchanging it. Nigeria and Barbados collaborate, using this bridge as a channel to foster better entrepreneurial growth and development is key to the project. The advance of fintech startups in Nigeria will give Barbadian entrepreneurs deep access to key markets. Additionally, it's the best part. Additionally, Barbados dollar is pegged to the United States dollar to $1. $2 billion is equivalent to $1 US. This gives Nigerian entrepreneurs the ability to move liquidity at unprecedented speeds. So they're not going after US dollars, no, sorry. They're doing business with Barbados entrepreneurs doing this with them. And then when those digital freelancers get paid in our currency, they can convert our currency based on our environment to US dollars. And that way they're not working for Naira, they're working for Barbados currency. And then our bridge uses the cryptocurrency like Litecoin to bridge the gap. So and then when persons want to create business, they can create business in Nigeria, and Nigerians can create business here. So that allows us to have many unprecedented speeds of information. This results in funds stored in a decentralized digital asset, such as Bitcoin or Litecoin, thus giving portions of Africa like Nigeria, for example, a direct tool set of liquidity and access a vibrant entrepreneur community here in Barbados. And then the entrepreneurship community in Barbados then gets access to all those fintech startups that we don't have access to, but the two elements coincide and collaborate. That is pretty much the core aspect of the fintech project.
Cool. So we touched on a lot.
Mhm.
We shared a lot. We've gone in some directions concerning the fintech project. Knowing where your data was being done with your data,
Mhm.
and basically, as I said before, how the fintech project is providing solutions to deal with data, because data being shared is a key aspect of being involved.
Shared, not just given away voluntarily or stolen.
Right. So one thing that I want you to share with everyone before we go on to the live question and answer, before we bring the call to the end,
Mhm.
is to basically share with us what actually is done with your data. So the question for the topic is, where is my data?
Mhm.
So answer that for us. What's being done with your data?
Well, your data is used in two ways, okay? No, I wouldn't jump to the obvious where it is sold in the black market or even sold legitimately, or even go that far. First of all, I mean, we didn't actually start to define what exactly is data. So I'm gonna answer it this way. Most, I would say most, I would say like 99% of information that pass through a computer uses ones and zeros. It's called binary, okay? Now, once your information is in that form, it is in a universal aspect. Even the chipsets on your motherboard, your phone, have these little tiny gates and on and off switches, ones and zeros again. So, but the concept of binary is used throughout the internet, okay? Now, the concept is that since that where is all your data is stored in that data model. So before I go into hard drives and Google Cloud stores and whatnot, you first have to determine how is the information stored in the first place. It's stored in binary. So since it's stored in ones and zeros, is that it is a universally accepted methodology, so it's subject to being stored. The fintech project does not use binary. It doesn't use ones and zeros. So right off the bat, you're protecting your information. Second layer, it's encrypted. It is not encrypted using blockchain technology. It uses blockchain technology to move it from one point to from the media.
This is your data?
Yeah, this is your
Data
data.
is encrypted,
Yes.
meaning that as it travels, they actually can't see your information.
The only time it's decrypted is when you need to see it with your actual eyes.
When I need to see my data.
When you need to see your data.
So it's not decrypted for even people that are using it
Yeah,
for
imagine, yeah.
research.
Yeah, right now, when you go online and you store your password, encrypted password by the way, even the platform that your data is on, they can even help you. For example, when our members lost access to their blockchain.com account and the tech crew told the individual, they can't help them because the software in its nature, even the platform itself don't know where your password is.
I guess that it would be so like weird if you forgot your password and the website is like, oh wait, your password is X.
Yeah, but that happens, but you have to then do what? For your email address, but what happens if you lost access to that email? This is a circle redundancy.
Well, trust me, I've gone through that already.
Exactly, and a lot of personal has happened to. Then when you even try to add two-factor authentication, you lose the phone.
Yeah.
So a lot of persons may not even know this. When you create a WhatsApp account, they send a message, but WhatsApp doesn't have a password. You just open it and it goes right into your WhatsApp. You will have to install a third-party app that prevents any person from accessing it or your phone by itself. But the caveat is that someone phone can have your cell phone, WhatsApp sends the SMS, you call the person, okay, what's the SMS code? You typically your phone and you are in two separate locations. What happens today that there are banking institutions that send you SMS to prove authenticity, but you are no you yourself as a human are nowhere near your phone. But because you know what that code is, allows you. So that is one of the ways the architecture project seeks to solve these security glitches left and right. There's nothing wrong with authentic email. There's nothing wrong with that. But what I want to do is give person an added layer of security. And then once we've established that as the forwarding project to really bring about all this change, is that persons finally see Barbados as a gem that it is. Not only tourism, I mean tourism is great, but we have very talented persons in Barbados, and Trivium wants to actually increase awareness of that.
I guess this is a good place to open the forum for questions and answers, because you just mentioned there, with regards to Barbados being seen as a gem beyond tourism.
Mm.
And so I'll throw a question to the forum, those of you who are on tonight. What do you think about Barbados actually being a gem for economic development, financial technology, digital assets, liquidity? You know, what are your views concerning Barbados being known for this aspect?
So
You know,
I want to pause the recording and I'm going to start.